So, you've probably seen them, right? Those videos all over the internet. These sensational clips making wild claims about some kind of secret, world-changing material. You know, the ones promising that our buildings will soon be indestructible or our gadgets will last forever. It all sounds like something straight out of science fiction.
Yeah, they have these wild titles, some of them put together by content farms using those robotic AI voices. They ask these crazy questions like, has TSMC lost? They'll go on to claim that Taiwan has some secret 15-year project that's going to make houses repair themselves and create cars that never, ever scratch.
So, that brings us to the big question. Is any of this actually real? And the answer is, well, it's yes and no. The core science? Oh, it's absolutely real. And it's incredibly exciting. But the hype? That has gotten completely out of control. So, in this explainer, we're going to cut right through all that noise and show you the actual science behind materials that can heal themselves.
Here's the plan. We'll start with where the inspiration comes from, nature. Then we'll dive into how the tech actually works, where you can find it today, what its limits are, and finally, what it all really means for our future. Let's get into it.
Okay, so the whole idea, the inspiration behind all of this, it comes from one really powerful concept: biomimicry. For millions of years, biological systems, from our own skin healing a cut to the bark on a tree sealing a wound, they've perfected the art of repairing damage. Scientists are now basically copying those natural blueprints to create a whole new generation of smart materials.
Yeah, it's really that simple. Biomimicry is all about learning from nature's genius. And when it comes to self-healing, scientists are using two main approaches to try and copy that genius in the lab.
Okay, so you've got two main flavors here. First, there's what we call extrinsic healing. The easiest way to think about this is like embedding a tiny repair kit directly inside the material itself. The second is intrinsic healing, which is, well, it's more like a molecular zipper. With this one, the material's own chemical bonds are designed to be able to break and then reform, literally zipping the damage closed all on their own. For today, we're mostly going to focus on that first type because it's behind some of the most fascinating breakthroughs happening right now.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. How does this stuff actually work? Let's take a look at three really brilliant examples of these self-healing concepts in action.
So the first way, and this is kind of the classic approach, is all about microcapsules. Imagine millions of microscopic capsules, each one filled with a liquid healing agent just mixed into a material. They're just sitting there, waiting. Then a tiny crack forms. As it tears through the material, it ruptures these capsules, releasing the liquid. This healing agent then flows into the crack, hits a catalyst that's also mixed into the material, and that triggers a chemical reaction that hardens it, basically gluing the crack shut from the inside. It's a really elegant, totally autonomous repair system.
That's cool, but what if you could go a step further? What if the material wasn't just repaired? What if it was, in a way, alive? Well, that's the wild idea behind this second method, which was developed at Delft University of Technology. They've created a kind of living concrete.
So here's the genius of it. Researchers mix special bacterial spores, along with their food source, which is calcium lactate, right into the wet concrete. These bacteria just stay dormant, kind of like seeds in a packet, for years, until a crack forms and water starts to seep in. That water is their wake-up call. They activate, start eating their food, and their metabolic byproduct, basically their waste, is limestone. That limestone naturally fills the crack, seals it, makes the structure waterproof again, and the bacteria just go back to sleep.
And this third approach brings things from massive buildings right down to the clothes on our back. Researchers in Taiwan, led by Professor Chen Chun Tai at Yangming Chiaotong University, have developed self-healing fabrics. By mixing specific polymers with something called an ionic liquid, they've created a material that can actually repair rips and cuts. This is absolutely huge for the future of smart clothing and what's called electronic skin, where the conductive pathways that are woven into our clothes could repair themselves, making all our wearable tech way more durable. Okay, so all of this sounds like cool lab science, right? But where can you actually find this stuff out in the real world? Well, you might be surprised. Remember that living concrete we just mentioned? It's not some far-off experiment. This right here is a massive firewater reservoir at the Port of Rotterdam in the Netherlands. It was built using that exact same bioconcrete technology. Why? To make sure the whole structure stays perfectly watertight for the long haul, which drastically cuts down on maintenance costs.
And you can even get your hands on this tech today right off the shelf. Certain high-end ceramic coatings for cars use self-healing polymers that can make minor swirl marks and light scratches literally disappear with a little bit of heat from the sun. The same thing goes for some of those premium phone screen protectors that can fix those tiny, annoying microscratches. But, and this is a huge but, we're talking about minor surface blemishes here. This stuff isn't going to fix a major dent in your car or a shattered phone screen.
But maybe the most incredible frontier for this is in healthcare. Researchers are working hard on developing self-healing dental composites. Just imagine a filling in your tooth that could automatically repair the tiny microfractures that form over time just from chewing. This could stop cracks in their tracks before they lead to bigger problems or more decay, making fillings last dramatically longer.
And you know what drives innovation? Money. And this is exactly why there's a ton of investment pouring into this field. The global market for these self-healing polymers is projected to just explode, growing from about $3.5 billion in 2025 to over $45 billion by 2037. That's more than a tenfold jump. That kind of economic incentive is a massive driver for creating more durable products.
Okay, so we've seen the mind-blowing potential, but now it's time for a reality check. If this is so great, why isn't everything we own self-healing yet? Well, as you might guess, there are some pretty significant hurdles.
So what's holding it back? Well, for starters, it's expensive. The specialized chemicals and complex manufacturing don't come cheap. The scope of healing is also pretty limited. Again, we're talking microdamage, not a catastrophic failure. Plus, a lot of these systems are basically a one-shot deal. Once the healing agent in one spot is used up, that's it. It's done. And finally, they aren't always fully autonomous. Many still need an external trigger, like heat from a heat gun or water, to get the job done.
So let's be super clear, because this is the most important takeaway to cut through that online hype. Self-healing materials today can fix minor scratches on your car's paint. They can seal micro cracks in a concrete wall to keep it waterproof. What they can't do is magically put a car back together after a wreck, or unshatter your phone screen, or repair a building after a major earthquake. The idea of total regeneration is, for now, still just hype.
But even with all those limitations, the bigger picture here, the long-term vision, it's genuinely profound. This is about fundamentally changing how we think about the stuff we make and use every day. See, this tech isn't just about making our lives a little easier. It really represents a fundamental shift away from our disposable culture, where we just throw things away at the first sign of damage, and toward a much more durable, more sustainable one.
I mean, the promise here is just massive. By extending the life of our products, our cars, our buildings, these materials can help us reduce waste, conserve precious resources, and dramatically lower long-term maintenance costs. It's all about learning from the world around us to build a smarter, more resilient future.
So I want to leave you with this thought. Let's forget the crazy hype for a second and just think about the real science of micro repairs. What's the one thing in your life you wish could fix itself? That phone charging cable that always starts to fray. The scuffs on your favorite pair of shoes. When you think about it, the possibilities, even on a small scale, are pretty much endless.